Hi guys, and welcome to the Preston vs Sunderland match review. So as you can probably tell by my face and by my tone, I'm not as sort of joyous as I have been in recent weeks. Even, win, lose or draw, I have been very positive, and I am going to try and remain somewhat level-headed during this match review, but I won't lie to you, that 90 minutes, particularly the first 45, was the most sort of anger-inducing watches I've had to go through so far this season. For different reasons, which I'll get into, but I also need to consider the fact that we are still top of the league. I can't shy away from that we're still in an excellent position, but I'm also still the same person that gives you my absolute 100% honest opinion, and that's what I'm going to give you. So getting into this game, of course, we're taking on Preston. They were 20th or 21st, I believe, before this, away from home, and I've said in the preview, particularly this early in the season, you can't look at the league table and think, right, okay, that's it now, they're in the bottom few, so they must be terrible. They're not. They're a decent side, a bit like QPR. I know they got battered the other night by Middlesbrough, but even if you watch the highlights of that game, QPR just had just as many clear-cut chances as Borough. It's just that kind of league at the moment. However, I think our recent performances are starting to have a little bit of a passing in terms of how our press is starting to vanish a little bit, and we're almost relying on opposition teams to not finish their own chances, where if you do want to go up, particularly in the top two, which I know isn't necessarily the original aim before the season started, but if you do want to go up, we can't go through an entire championship season just relying on the opposition not finishing their chances, because we could have been 3 or 4-0 down by half time. But again, sorry, I'm going off a little bit, but I'm going to get into it. So we made a few changes. Now we're going to need to address this first. So I expected at some point in the next few games for Regis to make wholesale changes, or at least 2 or 3 changes dotted around the squad, because we do have a squad that he says he does trust, and I get that, and I appreciate that. I actually really, really like that he trusts the squad. He trusts the youth in the squad as well, and that's what we saw. However, I said before the game, if you follow me on Twitter, if you follow me on social media, that I was slightly fearful of how we changed the entire front line before this game, because it's a massive risk. I was excited because we had Watson on the right-hand side, Isidore on the left, and then we had Connolly starting down the centre. Now, my concern was you've pulled off Mundell and Roberts. You're giving Connolly his first start down the centre on his own. Isidore, I know he can play as a winger, but he's probably the best looking natural striker we've had in years, and our top goal scorer now shifting out onto the left-hand side. And then you've got Watson making his first start for the club as well, putting him on the right-hand side when he's a left winger, not a right winger. Of course, he will say himself can play on the right, but he's absolutely a much better player and a much more comfortable player on the left. So straight away, I'm thinking, you've kind of made a mess of our outlet up top there. You made a bit of a mess out of our attacking unit. Let's see how this is going to affect the rest of us. Will it just be a more sort of raw attacking display, or is it going to be a bit of a mess? And that first 45 minutes was fucking atrocious. It was absolutely abysmal, and not just because of the front three as well, although Connolly absolutely isolated. Watson was very, very uncomfortable on that right, you could see that. And Isidore on his side, although going forward, okay in pieces, to do the defensive work you need to do in this team and in this system, he was all over the place. He was tucking inwards, where Potts on their right-hand side had the entire side of the stadium that he wanted. He had absolutely acres. So that was a total mess up top. There was no way we were scoring in that first half. We had a couple of chances, and, one of them was a half-decent one where Isidore did cut him from left to right, and he's just past the near post. Another one where Trey Hume, I think he got both Hume and Sirkin on either side. I think Sirkin only left his own half from the 75th minute onwards. Because of course he was sort of covering for Isidore all the time, and he just daren't go forward, which I do understand, but we'd love to see Sirkin go forward. He's one of the best dribblers or the best fullbacks or wing-backs in the league, and he didn't leave because he has to cover 2 or 3 Preston players on his side because no one else is fucking helping him. Hume, as I say, he had one chance in that first half where he got in on the byline, pulls it back for Connolly, who managed to nick in just in the head of the keeper, but the keeper did stop it with his legs. Those were the only 2 chances we made the whole first half. Now let's get on to Preston's chances. They had a plethora straight from the off, as I say, and I don't want to just blame the whole front three, and that's why I changed it, by the way. That doesn't shy away from the fact that Brown may as well have had the captain's armband on for Preston still, because him and Dan Neil, and again, I praise Brown all the time. I say he's a class player. I think he is a class player, but I think him and Dan Neil today, they were passing it to anyone but anyone in a red and white shirt. It was that poor. Just really try to force the play. When we need to just calm the play down and the players on, they'd be drilling it straight towards like Connolly, they'd play three at the back. You've got little Connolly in the middle of him. Then when they didn't know what to do, they'd just drill it straight out towards him and just hope something stuck. I hope something happened. And for Preston, like I said, they were making chances straight away. Potts on the right-hand side did excellently because, of course, like I said, Isidore gave him the key of the city. He let him on the right-hand side. He pulls it back to Greenwood. 7-8 yards out. Aches a space, takes a touch on it. Then Luke O'Nien dives in front of him, managed to get a great block on it. And again, they've had other chances, that loads of chances from in and around the area. Goalmouth scrambles. Luke O'Nien a good 3 or 4 times in that first half. Made some last-ditch challenges. At one time, he put his literal bollocks on the line. And I'd be surprised if it'll be it'll be in action for a while because of that. But in terms of Luke O'Nien, I was saying this online as well, and I know I do often refer to social media. But with Luke O'Nien, a lot of people use him as a scapegoat. But the amount of times per game he has to make last-ditch challenges, it's becoming mental. And it isn't covering up his own mistakes, it's others. And if we didn't have Luke O'Nien because of this, we would legitimately be fucked. Because the amount of last-ditch challenges, like I said, Brown would be giving it straight away. Dan Neal's giving it straight away. Then he'd have to come with a last-ditch challenge, perfectly timed, or just as they're about to have a shot because one of the two have lost it, and he'd throw himself in front of the ball and get a block. So we need to give him credit in that sense. But yeah, they were miles better than us, and it was infuriating to see. It was like we didn't really want to do the press. If one player would go to do the press, no one would follow. Like, for example, Connolly drive forward, and usually when we have Mundell or Roberts or whoever, when we have Mayender up top there, the squeeze as a triangle and Rigg would push forward with them. But it was that one forward would go, and then some would stay back. And we started the game looking so overly cautious, and we have done for the last couple of games, rather than really getting at them and believing in ourselves and trying to be on the front foot. It was like, right, okay, we're here now to sit back, and then if we get some at the other end, we might go for it. And that's how it felt. And to go from the start we had, and again, I know I can't stray too far because we're still top of the league, but to go from the start we had and the way we were playing, to go from that to this sort of semi-defensive brand and just hoping we can get some at the other end maybe, it's a bit of a kicker, do you know what I mean? It is a little bit of a kicker, and I know they might just be, or Reggie's might be just paying a bit of respect to Preston, and I get that, but we need to be more on the front foot, because he's tried to experiment, which I did respect, however, it didn't work, but also the players need to hold themselves accountable for certain things. When players aren't challenging for second balls, Reggie's can't, that's not Reggie's fault, that's the player's mindset, because, for example, one tiny little thing, which might sound ridiculous, it might sound petty, but it's true, and it was infuriating. For example, they'd win a throw-in on the halfway line, for example. As soon as whoever's taking the throw would sprint over, pick up the ball as quick as he can, and plays a bombing forward to try and make a run for him. We won it on the halfway line, and I remember, I think it was Hume who ran over to go get it quick, looked up, our players are going back. They're all jogging backwards. Like, what the fuck? We're literally in the counter, we've just got the throw, and there's no one to be seen. It was just horrendous, and no one had the confidence. No one wanted the ball. And the amount of times where we did pick it up in the middle, Brandon put his foot on the ball, have a look around, see that no fuck is moving, and he turned around, and we were meant to be on the counter attack. It was garbage, utter garbage. I don't think they really trusted Watson. They tried to put him in a few times, and opening sort of 15 minutes or so, there's a couple of nice touches here and there from Watson. And I say on that right hand side, he's very uncomfortable. But almost every time he'd get the ball, he'd have his back to his man, and he'd try and flick it round him every time. And every time he did flick it round him, and he tried to beat him for pace, he'd get shoved away because at the end of the day, he is a kid, and that's it. And he did look a little bit out of place. As soon as anyone put a shoulder to him, regardless of who it was, he'd be on the ground straight away, and they'd brush him off, piece of piss. Whereas, usually, I know it's the academy, but he's used to cutting in from left to right and going through it that way and drifting in between players. And he just didn't really look like he knew what he was doing on that right-hand side. But yeah, it was just a mess. So I thought changes have to be made in the second half, surely. And then you come out exactly the same in the second, and I just thought, come on, Reggie, come on. I understand, just hold your hands up now. Say he made a mistake, but no, he waited a good 15 minutes or so, because it was sort of more of the same. And then we brought on Mundell and we brought on Roberts. So then we went back to the usual, Isidore down the middle, Roberts on one side and Mundell on the other. And it's straight away, again, it weren't excellent, it weren't outstanding, but we competed out of nowhere. Bang! We look like we're competing now. Everyone seemed like they knew what we were doing. Everyone pushed up an extra 5, 6, 7 yards. Everyone seemed like it was a well-oiled engine somewhat. Don't get me wrong, we weren't making clear-cut chances and we weren't peppering the goal, but we looked so much more threatening. Roberts cutting in from right to left. Mundell doing the same, albeit it was a bit frustrating because it was the first time we started to see Sirkin come forward on the overlap because he trusts Mundell on that side. But then there were times towards the back end of the game where we're sort of throwing the kitchen sink at it, if you will. And you've got queues back to Sunderland players waiting in the box. And Sirkin and Mundell are just relentlessly taking it in turns to just run directly into the Preston right backs or the defenders in general. And then they just lose it and they break forward. And we just didn't take care of the ball anywhere near enough. And I know this seems so negative, but I need to get it out there. I'm just watching. I'm making this directly after watching the game. So yeah, and it worked. One of them, we just didn't look after the ball enough. We were trying to force it every time we got it. If every time they got the ball back to goal, wherever they were in the middle of the park, left hand side, right hand side, defence, up, so wherever they had it, all they had to do was put the foot on the ball, turn around, and they had 4, 5, 6 yards of space on their own, and then they could do what they want with it. When we did it, they were right in behind us, but not only that, rather than us trying to keep hold of it and then just give it to the man, every time the ball was put into him, back to goal, they tried clever flick. And it wasn't like it was calculated that there's someone else making a run off the ball. They were just trying to just do a random flick and just hope that something happens. It was a hopeful and hopeless performance for me, that one. And, fair play to Preston, they made it difficult. But we, in turn, made it incredibly easy for large parts. It took until the last 25 minutes of the game for us to really even attempt to go for it, in my opinion. So that was really, really poor. Alexic, I don't know whether he actually got on the pitch. I didn't really see it the last sort of couple of minutes he was warming up. It looked like he might have got his debut, but I'm not sure whether he did. We did have one chance right towards the back end when we managed to put the ball in. Mundell finally got a cross into the box and it found Roberts at the back post. Not the greatest of angles, but he's hit it on the volley. It looks like it might have been going into the corner, but Woodman makes a save. But other than that, that was it. There was one very, very good save I might add to Moore, who made a fantastic save. They did it was almost a Mundell-esque chance. It was their strike. He cut him from left to right, tried to put it in the top corner, and it was a great save from Moore. So I need to give him that as well. But yeah, so they probably deserved the points. Again, it's one of them where we didn't play our best, and yet we're still picking up a point. But there's only so many times I think we can keep getting away with that, and I'm making very similar reviews. And again, I don't want to make it sound like I'm in a spoiled brat. We're top of the league. I'm buzzing with top of the league, but I'm also a realist in that I know that we can't keep getting away with performances like that, and we need to get back to our best. Of course, we're definitely missing the likes of Job. We needed that physicality in the middle, but that doesn't excuse the piss poor passing from Dan Neil and from Brown, and then just everything else being the way it was. It just didn't work. It just really didn't work at all, and it just shows you take 1 or 2 players out of this team, and we're an absolutely bang average side, which is very concerning. And I think we do need to start to mould other players off the bench into the team. I absolutely agree, but changing the entire front line with players in different positions and in wrong positions, mind you, and giving first starts in a game like this, I was very concerned before, and I think it proved to be correct, really. But yeah, who can I give man of the match? Maybe Luke O'Nien, because there were some absolutely outstanding last-ditch challenges. But again, apologies, it has come across incredibly negative. But they're not all going to be positive. But if we are going to take a positive from this game, we are still top of the league. I'd be incredibly interested to see what your point of views are in the comments. I know from a 0-0, it won't get too, not many people like to watch a review where we're not winning, or particularly when it's a 0-0 as well. But yeah, let me know if you agree with me. Am I being a bit too harsh? But it was an incredibly frustrating watch. That's the way I'm going to leave it. And that first half performance was the worst I've seen for us so far under Rodgers. And we need to be a hell of a lot better this weekend against Coventry. A hell of a lot better. And we're fortunate as well, yet again, that there's results away and around from us have gone our way. Into the Leeds got beat by Millwall. So if we want to stay in the top 2, we need to improve drastically and get on top of it. And hopefully we do. In Rodgers we trust. But yeah, that's it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. If you have, hit the like button for me. Let me know how you felt. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. But for now, take care. Stay jammy.